Welcome, everybody. How is everyone? Oh, yeah, that's what I like to hear. Troy, excellent. Where's your Hawaiian shirt? Um, Welcome, everyone. This is a pretty exciting event for me personally. For those who don't know me, my name is Pauline Fetaui, and I am of origin of Papua New Guinea. I also am half Australian. I was just speaking to my sisters in my language who are just up at the top there. Welcome. I'm so excited to see so many people of colour and also people all different colours, and that includes wonderful white people in the audience. Because all of us, this is the goal. All of us, this is an actual multicultural inclusion environment, and for us to actually do that, we have to live it and be it, and actually work together. And this could not be possible without our wonderful friends in the Queensland Chief Entrepreneurs Office and Advanced Queensland who helped get this organised together. I'm excited because, for those who don't know, I head up River City Labs. River City Labs is located on the third floor up there, and we actually work with technology companies, emerging technology companies specifically, to help them grow. And mostly our focus is on personalized mentorship and resources and network to help them actually get their idea off the ground, or help them scale, or get capital readiness. So get capital through, whether it's actually through investors or through their sales and growth. We are supported by a wonderful community of mentors, and there's a lot of mentors in this ecosystem. And the goal of today is to actually be able to share some of the stories from entrepreneurs who've been through many programs that are actually available through programs like River City Labs, and also the Queensland Chief Entrepreneur and Advanced Queensland, as well as many of our other partners in the ecosystem. But it's also about the people that you get to meet in the room, the people sitting next to you, and how you actually get to network. So by you guys actually standing up and coming to these events, you get to meet new people, and you just don't know where those conversations are going to go. The biggest gap in my experience personally is that a lot of people who are from multicultural backgrounds don't necessarily see themselves fitting into environments like this. When a bit about me and my story, just so you have a background, beyond me being a woman of colour, I actually grew up overseas in Papua New Guinea. I came here when I was 16 years old. And I actually, for those who don't know, Papua New Guinea is a bit like the Hunger Games sometimes. So it's actually like, it's not for the faint-hearted. So it actually served me well, because I had 20 years in corporate when I finished school. And that was by sheer determination, perseverance, and hard work ethic. I was a ball buster. And I still am a ball buster. It's just that I've got some crystals and fairy dust now, and I'm a bit nicer because I'm a bit more awoken. So 20 years in corporate, I worked in IT. So I didn't have an easy pathway into that. I actually started in the mailroom at NDF, and I actually used to sort mail. And that was straight after school, nearabouts. I tried to go to TAFE, but I kind of struggled because I just wanted to party. And this is all new, and I was like, I'm in Australia, I'm going to party, and like I've just been hostage in school, and now I'm going to go out and live my life. But I needed money, so I started in the mailroom and I started working. I was always good at IT. I remember when I left school, I said to people, hey, this was in grade 12, I was a naughty student as well, and they're like, oh, what are you going to do after school? And I was like, I think I'll do something with computers. And literally, people laughed. They scoffed. So I was like, well, stuff you. I'm going to do it anyway, because that was the personality I was, given I came from School of Hard Knocks in PNG. It runs through my veins. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. So while I was in the mailroom sorting, I started actually inquiring, okay, how do I get into university? Oh, I got to stick that stupid exam because I've got a terrible AP score. And so I went and I did that, and then I got into a Bachelor of Business and Information Systems. And so I started working on that, working in MBF through, I was always the person who said yes to everything. So eventually, now that I'm in my 40s, I learned somewhere along the way to start saying no to everything. But when I was saying yes to everything, what it did was help me build my network and my career pathway. And that wasn't because I knew to say yes. What I knew is that I needed money. And in order to get money, I needed to know people, and I needed to open doors. And there weren't many people that looked like me in my industry. I eventually said yes to projects that didn't give me a pay rise, that didn't do this, that didn't treat me the best. I had really not very nice bosses a lot of the time. It gave me a lot of thick skin, but my sheer determination to actually not live the way where I came from was what inspired me. And I can only imagine some who I have spoken to in the audience, that is your determination. And that is something we share. The risk that I see, and with a lot of people of color, especially that I work with and entrepreneurs, is that they don't say yes and they don't put their hands up. They don't take the risk because, in my culture, shame, a lot of cultures, shame, I don't want to put my hand up, I don't want to say because I have nothing valuable to say. That is the absolute opposite. If you think you're working for a higher purpose, whether that's your children, whether it's the broader community around you, it's your responsibility to put your hand up, pave the way, so someone else that looks like you can keep going forward after you. That's how I see it, which is why I definitely put my hand up to work with the team to be able to host an event like tonight. So I hope today you take out some inspiration. You get to actually hear other people's stories, and they are brilliant humans who've all taken different paths to get to where they are today. But most importantly, they have a secret trait. They put themselves at risk and put their hands up. They asked. If they got a no, it wasn't a no. That was a not now, not your way, but I'm going to go this way and I'm going to get it anyway. So I hope you guys get a little bit of that, and you'll have a lot of time to network after the event, of course. But let me do what I actually should be focused on also and start to interview some people. But before I do that, I want to remind everyone of something very, very special. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait people were the first scientists, astronomers, geologists, ecologists, engineers, and entrepreneurs building their deep knowledge about the nature of the world in which we live in for thousands of generations. Here in Australia today, we, many of you, continue to build on this tradition of inquiry, curiosity, and custodianship, adding to the rich social and scientific knowledge of this country and, for a lot of you, of the world. I respectfully acknowledge the Yurraga and Turrbal people as the traditional owners and First Nations people of the land where I'm speaking from today. I recognize that this land is taken. I pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and I also extend my respect to all First Nations people here today. That's that. Okay, so what have we got in store? We have the wonderful Wayne Gerard, who's going to come up shortly. We are going to have an interview with Henry Bolton, the amazing entrepreneur of some amazing technology. So I'm not going to burst the bubble. You're going to hear about that. And then we've got a panel with some amazing humans that are doing great things in their industry. You're going to learn about their story. And then we've got some mentors in the audience, and they are actually going to be available at networking. So I encourage you, I will point out who they are at the end when we wrap up, but I encourage you to actually take the bold step and ask for something. Okay, so not only say, yes, I'm going to go network, but actually think about what you need, what's going to help you propel you forward, and ask for it. Take the bold step. You might not see these people again, so you've got nothing to lose. Beyond that, let me introduce you to the wonderful Wayne Gerard. So Wayne is the co-founder of Red Eye and also the Queensland Chief Entrepreneur and member of the Brisbane 2032 Legacy Committee. I'm going to let Wayne do a little bit more of an introduction of who he is, and then also, of course, start the next conversation. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you. So, what do I know about Pauline? Right. The first thing I know about Pauline is the word that comes to my mind is amazing. I love Pauline's spirit. I love her energy. I love her passion. I love her dedication. I love her determination and her persistence. And they're attributes and qualities of every successful person, regardless of where a successful person comes from. What excites me as Chief Entrepreneur is the opportunity to encourage, inspire, empower, and unlock opportunities for successful people in Queensland. The more successful people we can create in Queensland, the more successful businesses we can create, the more jobs we can create, the more opportunities we can create, the more prosperity we can create. And the better we can be as stewards of our economy and our society and our environment for our kids and their kids. The better role models we can be, the better example we can be as a global citizen. And for me, I'm super excited to be able to host this event tonight. It was, I guess, one of the most important things I wanted to do as Chief Entrepreneur. And I'll talk a little bit about why that's important in a moment. Before we do that, I also want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we gather. And like Pauline, the way you described it, I think was really, really beautiful. Right? As Chief Entrepreneur, I believe that our traditional owners, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, were Australia's traditional entrepreneurs, our traditional curious problem solvers, right? Through necessity and through opportunity. And at an event like this, I reflect on the traditional custodians and owners of the lands that you come from and the role they've played in creating today's culture and a global society. And I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of every land, and particularly those that are gathered here today, because I think we all bring something special to the mix. And it's about making space for that special culture, heritage, wisdom to shine through, right? Diversity of thinking, diversity of action, definitely. All the data says it creates better businesses, it creates better products and services, which create better solutions for people, for society, and for the environment. And so with that in mind, I believe we walk in the footsteps of the people that have come before us, wherever they come from and wherever you come from. And so I'd like to acknowledge that. As Chief Entrepreneur, my job is to unlock Queensland's economy and society through innovation, through entrepreneurship, through the creation of businesses that solve really, really important problems. And we have stacks of important problems to solve. In fact, I don't think there's been a more pressing time in the world's history than it is right now. We have environmental opportunities and challenges, right? We have economic opportunities and challenges. We have societal opportunities and challenges. And we need more people focused on unlocking the opportunities and solving the challenges. We want to create an environment, the infrastructure, the network, the space, the relationships, the connections to solve the world's most important problems and challenges right here in Queensland. We see it as an incredibly important responsibility. And so we're lucky to have an organisation, the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur, and the Department of Innovation that are focused on doing that. That's the reason we're doing this tonight. I started my own tech company 10 years ago here in Queensland. I wanted to put a company that was an example of what's possible here in Queensland. And to do that, back then, there was no tech ecosystem. There was no startup or innovation ecosystem. Every person I hired, I had to train. And there were, you couldn't get on Seek and find a product manager, right? You couldn't tap someone from another startup and say, hey, can you come and be a customer success manager here now? You couldn't find a salesperson that understood enterprise software or enterprise software as a service. In fact, you couldn't find a software developer that had written software for companies in the cloud when I started. We were literally the first cloud software that BHP ever used. And so over the last 10 years, we've had to do a lot of firsts. I've hired 400 people into my software company over the last 10 years. 6 new companies have spawned out of my software company in the last 10 years. And out of the 400 people I've hired, 80 of them have come from other countries, other backgrounds, and bring other experiences. What's tragic is that 10 of them have literally been working in roles and in jobs that just weren't reflective of the skills, experience, capability, or capacity that they demonstrated. I hired a really amazing person named Sam. And Sam was working as a barista. He's now our global head of customer success. Right? I've hired people who have driven Ubers who have had 2 and 3 degrees. I've hired people who have worked at David Jones on the counter, right? Who are amazing software engineers, but their English just wasn't really up to par, and so they couldn't get through interviews. I'm going, this is fucking ridiculous. How do we connect our innovation ecosystem with amazing, talented people that have come here to start a new life? Right? How do we need talented people. So how do we build an ecosystem that's inclusive, that's open, that's encouraging, that's inviting, and that allows people to learn and not have to be perfect? And so part of my goal tonight is to start a conversation, to encourage all of us to be a voice for change, because I really want us to leverage back into the relationships and networks and communities that we have. Encourage people, right? Encourage people, help them, connect them, bring them to events like this, bring them to more events in the startup ecosystem. Ask us to help them find jobs, right? Because I really want to see the diversity in our ecosystem. We have so many jobs going, and I feel like, come on in. I feel like there's a missed opportunity, and so I really want to explore that tonight. Does that resonate with anyone? Does that make sense? Right? It's not something that any one person can do by themselves. I'm just lucky to have an amazing team in the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur. Thank you, Sarah. Right? And Sandy, where are you, Sandy? Right there. Thank you, Sandy. And Sandy is doing an amazing program called 222 in 22, which is 222 videos, 2-minute videos in the year 2022, telling entrepreneurial and innovative stories. So, if she hasn't tapped you on the shoulder yet, right? How many people have not done a video? Quick, put your hands up. Sandy, look at all those people. They're all targets. Right? We want to tell your story, and we want to inspire more people to come and participate in our innovation ecosystem. And so Sarah and Sandy and Heather and Nicola and Lindy and Beck are part of the team at the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur. We have an email address, and it's really easy. chief.entrepreneur@queensland.gov.au. chief.entrepreneur@queensland.gov.au. Please connect with us. If we can be helpful in any way, please reach out. I do want to acknowledge Rowena Barrett. Put your hand up, Rowena. Rowena is what's your official title? There you go. Pro Vice Chancellor. I'm glad you know it. Pro Vice Chancellor Entrepreneurship at QUT. Rowena is also the chair of the Innovation Advisory Council and one of my best friends. Right? And Rowena has done an amazing job helping to build our innovation ecosystem over as long as I can remember. Rowena is incredibly giving of her time and absolutely will help you connect. So please take the time to connect with Rowena. She can be helpful. Jill, hello Jill, put your hand up. Jill's from the Department of Innovation, Sport, Tourism, right, and Olympics Legacy. But Jill is from the Department of Innovation specifically. Jill runs the Precinct and is an amazing person for you to know. So I'd encourage you to reach out to Jill and think about your community and hosting an event for your community here, right? Because we would love you to host events for your community here. We'd love to see more interesting, diverse community events here that we can then bring people to, right? So that's enough about all the stuff and the reason why we're doing this. what I'd like to do is kick off tonight with an interview style conversation. So we've got an amazing entrepreneur who has started when you were 11 or 12 with an interest in golf. Please come on down and introduce yourself, Henry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Henry Bolton. What's it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Well, my background is actually, my parents were from Fiji. Close off. Is it this close? Is that better?
Like that.
Okay. My background is from Fiji originally. My parents were both born there. I guess I'm a skippy. I was born here. Had an awesome time growing up with the whole Fijian community through all the rugby and things that we did growing up. I started out, I had a passion for golf. Dad and I started playing golf together, and that's sort of what really got me going in golf. Through my teenage years, that was all I played. And then when I left school, I actually did a electronics engineering apprenticeship. So that was through a tape. Yep. So that was really sort of taught me a lot about how everything worked in the world. During that time, I still was trying to see if I could make it as a golfer. I didn't quite make it as a golfer, but I saw an opportunity to take technology into sport. So we started working with 3D sensors on the body, one on the shoulders, one on the hips, and one on the hand. And we're tracking body motion back then. Back then, it was really expensive for 3D sensors. $45,000 back then, and we started to build a low-cost version for the end user. During that time, I had the opportunity to work with some of the best golfers in Brisbane and Gold Coast, which was awesome. So through that time, I ended up training some of those golfers, taking them to Japan. So during that time, while I was on the Japan tour with them, we saw the golf playing really cool golf in the practice round. They worked out everything that they could do, strategy, nutrition. But they were still not performing to their best. So we were like, closer. Yep. So they were not performing to their best. So we saw, we realised that something must be going wrong with their mental process. And so this is where I'm leading to. We said we have to start measuring what's going on inside the brain. And so that was, I came to Australia, and I sat down with my dad. My dad and I had a company, it was called Focus Band at the time. And so we need to start measuring what's going on inside their brain. So that's how the Focus Band was born, which is it's a wearable pain sensing headset we put on the head. And I'll put that there.
Keep talking.
Okay. So we developed this product here in Australia. So it's actually the world's first in-motion brain training system. So one of the problems that we have with brain training headsets, EEG is what it's called, is that you get a lot of noise when you move around. It doesn't like movement. So that really didn't work for golf, where we were moving around a lot. We had to work out how to get rid of that noise. So that's what we did. We were the first company to work out how to get rid of the noise and make in-motion EEG. From there, I ended up in the US. So a couple of the golfers came out to Australia and saw the product and started using it. And they said, you need to come to the US, show us, come on tour with us. So I ended up on the PGA Tour. Yes.
Black, right?
We worked with some of the best golfers in the world. I was lucky enough to work with Jason Day, who is a young Aussie guy, Filipino background. We took him from 37th to number 1 in the world. He won a major championship. We went on to help Justin Rose as well. 2016, 2018, he went from number 7 to number 1, and he won the gold medal, and he also won the FedEx Cup, that's the biggest prize in golf.
Did you get a share of the revenue?
some of it, yeah. So that was really exciting, but we saw that obviously golf is sort of an elite sport. We saw an opportunity to take what we had learned in golf and help a lot more people around the world. And so we actually went into mental health originally after that, and we thought that's where we're going to go. It was actually a little bit too hard. It was too like a big can of worms. So we narrowed our focus and we went into workplace wellness. And that's where we're at the moment. We started a new product, it's FlowX. And so that's particularly targeting workplace wellness and performance. And all of the drills, etc., that we learned in sport carry straight over into business. It's been really exciting. Our first customer was actually Facebook, so Meta, which was amazing. And the goal there was we really wanted to see if we could increase flow state, which is a precursor to productivity, which is a precursor to revenue for business. And so that's what we set out to do. And our goal was to increase flow by 20%, and we got to 24.9%, I think, in 30 days. So that's sort of where we're going at the moment. We see this disengagement, probably the biggest issue in the workplace at the moment. I think it's about 79% of the workforce is disengaged. So we see that as the biggest, probably one of the biggest issues to help the world overcome. And the device, we hope, will be one of the devices that helps people get back engaged and help make flow the number 1 state. That's what it's at the moment.
Henry, an amazing journey, right? I'm really curious. When you began, did you imagine where you'd end up?
No, I would not have picked. I was doing neuroscience at the end of that. No.
So you started off being passionate about golf, and you've ended up being passionate about mental health and neuroscience.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I didn't think I'd end up here.
So what's the lesson for you if a young entrepreneur, a new entrepreneur came up to you, what would you say to them about starting and where they'd start from, and how much potential does a person have?
You've got to stay curious. Like, make sure that you're excited about whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter what the task is, as long as you're passionate about that. It'll ring true.
So the idea of being curious in a field you can build a business from that.
Absolutely. If I was to say I went from electronic to 3D sensors to brain sensors, I would have never thought that path over.
And so your business right now, how many people does it employ?
Here in Brisbane, there's 3 of us in Brisbane. We have a few overseas, but yeah, there's 3 of us on the ground at the moment.
That's fantastic. And where do you see yourself being in like 12 months, 2 years, 5 years?
We're going back through sort of like an old startup now. We sort of went up and then plateaued through COVID and sort of wanting to go back up now. We changed industries. We went from a sports industry to a workplace industry. So it was basically learning the whole new language of the words that we used in sport didn't make sense when we were saying it in business. So there's been a bit of a steep learning curve to go into that space, but it's been exciting. We're going from just a product to a SaaS model. So understanding the whole software as a service is also encouraging.
So you've had to learn a lot of skills on your journey. Have you had help? Has there been a network of people around you? Who did you learn from?
been sort of fortunate to have some really good mentors in the sporting space, and I'm starting to get some mentorship through the workplace as well. Yeah.
How do you get a mentor?
You have to ask. Yep. Yeah. I think there's a few mentors here tonight. But yeah, just to ask that people will help if you put it out there. Yeah.
Just ask, people will help. Just ask, people will help. The core value of our innovation ecosystem is give before you get. What does that really mean? It means just ask and people will help. And the secret to that is that you can't just ask, you've also got to help, right? Because what makes this ecosystem amazing is the reality that everyone has got something to give. Everyone can contribute something to someone else. It might be motivation, it might be encouragement, it might be a contact, it might be an experience. The fact is that if we all walk into every situation thinking to ourselves, how can I help? I truly believe in the good karma that comes from that. How about you?
Yeah, I think you've got to give back. I've always tried to help when we're in golf, junior golfers. We always sort of go back to help them get on the road. It's not an easy pathway. There's only a small percentage that make it in sport, or any sport. It can be golf, baseball, or football, all the same thing. There's only a small percentage that make it. So you've got to keep trying. You've got to keep making the effort to show up.
So your business pivoted from sport into wellness in corporates. Along the journey, I imagine you've learned some good lessons from some of your customers. So who have been your customers and what kind of challenges have you had to overcome?
I think one of the biggest shifts I had to make was I was working with high-performing athletes, and then going back to not just the general workforce. There's a lot more stress in the general workforce than there is in the high athletes. Yep. The world is struggling. Everyone's really stressed out, anxiety, worry, and that's what we really want to help, is help people overcome those issues and experience what it is to feel good again. Yep.
So as a founder, going through those challenges of, feedback from customers and having to pivot through COVID, and, if you think about the ups and downs of your own personal journey, what are the attributes that have got you through the challenging times?
Probably say perseverance, just sticking through, even when you think it's not going to happen, something will happen for you. Yeah, as long as you keep showing up, something will come through.
The founder story, the founder journey is literally, everyone's seen those images online, right, where it's portrayed as a straight line like this, and the reality is it's like this, right? And it's the experiences that make us resilient. And often we're only 2 or 3 steps in front of the person beside us or our team members. And it's understanding that, or it's having the trust and confidence in ourselves that we can continue to push through, and the network of people around us that give us the confidence to just keep on, having a crack.
Yeah, I think it's good to have, obviously it helps to have a good team around you and good systems. Like you do need to put systems in place. I'm not going to say it's magically happens. Make sure that you're getting good structures in place, and then everything starts falling in place.
So, your parents are from Fiji, you were born here. Have you ever suffered any challenges, like has there ever been any racism, or has there ever been any situation where, you felt like you've been discriminated against or anything like that?
I think growing up in Australia, especially Brisbane, I wasn't that many dark people. I was considered black back then. So I'd say I'm like light brown at the moment. So it was one of those things. It was token. It was sort of a token black person, but it never sort of stopped guess it gave me sort of resilience, sort of helped me, I guess, in a way. Had to just push through. I sort of did it through athletics. I think that sort of drove what me.
How's the market changed now? Would you say that we are more accepting of diversity and inclusion? Are we on the right track, or is there still a long way to go? Or what's your experience?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's just a lot. There's a lot more multicultural. Brisbane's come a long way. I think we're sort of getting closer to Sydney and Melbourne. A lot more cultures coming up here now. I think the weather helps. I think most people want to be up here. So I think that's one of the main things. I think that's...
So what could we do as an ecosystem, as a community, to make our entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem more accessible, more inviting, more inclusive?
I guess just encouraging people to be excited about innovation. I think, obviously, innovation's the cornerstone of business. So, yeah, if you can stay curious, and the industry will find you. Yeah, I love it.
Hey, who's got a question for Henry? Anyone got a question? Firstly, give him a big clap. Hello.
You spoke really well, thank you. But I'm back to the science. You've got 3 sensors on your head. How do you say you're underperforming and you're performing? And what do you do if you're underperforming? Do you get an electric shock? Like, run us through quickly the science.
Yeah. So essentially what we're measuring brain frequency. And so when you're in different mental frequency bands, you're in different states. So essentially when you're in the ideal band, it'll give you feedback. It won't zap you, it'll give you audio feedback, and it'll show you on the screen that you're in the right state. So we have 9 states that we can measure. So flow is not the optimal state, but we can measure like when you're calm or you're disengaged, burnout, all those different ones.
Hi. Do you think that your athletic mindset and you basically has helped you become a better entrepreneur?
I think there's a lot of people cross over from sport into the workplace eventually. I guess it helps you that there's discipline. Yeah, you're disciplined enough to follow through. Yeah, because if you don't do the work, nothing happens. Yeah, so you've got to have that discipline on you. Yeah, so it does help. Yeah.
Any other questions? Right. No.
Good background. So, what advice do you have for people who don't actually have the knowledge of the field that they want to innovate in? So, for example, I don't know if you are a neurosurgeon, or if you're an engineer, but the technology that you're providing is really high end. So, what advice have you got for people in that regard?
I had no idea about neuroscience 10 years ago, to be honest. I knew what performance state was, but I was self-taught in the neuroscience space. There wasn't really a lot of information out then. So if you're interested in the field, I'd say just start reading and get involved in it. You'll work your way through it, and then you'll find the right people to connect up with.
I'm going to answer that question as well. So I started my career as an army officer, and then I built the first drone for the army in 1998. So I'm old, right? But I knew nothing about building drones. And then Boeing offered me a job, and I went to work for Boeing, and I knew nothing about selling Apache helicopters, but that's what I did. And then I got offered a job at a company that was going to list and go on the stock exchange, and it was an IT company. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll have a crack at that. So I went and ran a company. Didn't know how to do that when I started and had never done it before. And then I set up a consulting company. Then I set up an engineering company. Then I set up Red Eye. And at every step on that journey, I didn't have the knowledge or skills or the background. So I've really had like 5 careers. Yeah. What I had was, I had this willingness that Henry described as curiosity. Right? I had this curiosity to go and learn. And I had this willingness to try and make things better. And it's this kind of willingness to make things better for other people that ultimately encourages other people to help you. And so if you try and make things better for other people, they'll teach you what you need to know to become more and more proficient. One of the people that I learnt from, who is probably one of the smartest people I know, he said to me, Wayne, you don't have to be perfect. It's the science of better. So just being better every day. Right? And so when I think about all of us here, every one of us, there is no limitation to what company you could start. Or maybe I'll say it differently. The only limitation to what company you could start or what problem you could solve is whether or not you're willing to help people in that industry, that community, that sport, right? And whether or not you're willing to learn, because you've got to be willing to learn. But I believe every single one of you could build an amazing business here in Queensland that solves really, really important problems and creates really great jobs. You just got to start, right? And so next year I'll start a new career, my 6th different career in a different industry, yeah? And I can guarantee to you that I don't know that industry. I'm just going to start. Who's got a question? Last question. Henry, are you tracking all this brain data? There's not going to be much.
Thanks, guys, for sharing your wisdom. I have a social enterprise and education, and I just wanted to ask a question for both of you. How do you develop that willingness? So is it teachable for young people at school to learn these skills? Like you've equipped yourself with a lot of skills around self-education and then the willingness you mentioned. So can we then be teaching kids at a young age these certain skills to get to this space of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the big things is listening. Yep. For kids is learning how they learn. Learn to learn is probably the biggest issue at the moment. A lot of kids don't know how to learn, or everyone is sort of caught in that. So actually, some of the stuff that we've been doing in the study recently is showing getting kids in the right brain frequency helps them learn faster. So that's one of the really exciting things that we're doing at the moment. And it's literally, it makes them, gives them the ability to how to learn in the current Western curriculum. So a lot of them are stuck in play mode, and they don't know how to get into think mode, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. And so, yeah, that's some of the research that we're doing at the moment, is teaching them how to learn that thinking frequency band and getting really good results. Some kids that weren't able to, some of these kids are like 10 and 12 years old, can't read and write, and within a couple of days they're able to start completing their sentences and articulate exactly what they want to do. So yeah, it's an exciting thing. There's what we're doing at the moment is going to help that advance that more.
Radio. I'm going to answer that question very quickly with a question. Who's got kids? Put your hands up. Quick. What's our role in this? I finish every presentation with a little challenge. to all the people out there that have got kids. And my challenge is to change the conversation at the dinner table. All right? My challenge is to change the conversation at the dinner table from a conversation of what job are you going to get? You know, what are you going to go and study and what job are you going to get? To a conversation that is, what interests you? What are you passionate about? What problem do you want to solve? And what business will you build? Because it's up to us as parents to encourage our kids to be curious problem solvers, to do the things they're passionate about. And then it's up to us to be that example of being willing to learn, right? Because it's us that can change, you know, the future for our kids. Henry, give him a big clap. Hang on. How do people find you?
Go to focusband.com or flowxtech.com. Either of those websites will work for you.
And what about on social?
Henry through Instagram or through LinkedIn.
Awesome. And if you've got kids that would benefit from getting into a flow state, check Henry out. If you're working with organisations that would benefit from getting more productivity, check Henry out. And I'm handing back to Pauline. Thank you, everyone.
Wasn't that amazing? Did anyone realise that your brain frequency could be measured to flow state? I don't want to just work. Like, I don't think I need to be any more productive. I would like to learn how to relax. So I need to buy one of those. But I just want to say a big thank you to Henry. I met Henry only a few months ago, and the biggest takeout that I've had from Henry is that he actually doesn't think too much about what's ahead or what's behind him. He focuses on the now and what actually is in front of him, and he just knocks each obstacle as they come, and he has no ego, and he is extremely disciplined. If he says he's going to do something, does it, and he follows through, even if that's a no, or I can't do it now. And so kudos to you for your journey. The question I had is, and maybe you can share this with the community at networking, is how did you land Facebook? So you can tell us a little bit about it later, or post it on socials. That would be good, because we want to know how to land a big fish without killing ourselves. That would be great. I would love to invite the wonderful panel up. So Ben, Ali, Juan, hey, come on up, and Damana. So just when you thought you heard an amazing story, you're about to hear a lot more. Before we get started, I'm going to do a quick introduction of each of you, and then I'm going to pause after each one. I introduce each one of you, and I'll call you out. I won't make this complicated, and I want you to share a little bit of your origin story. And that will give a bit of depth to the background of where each person comes from, because some of the parts you don't realize is like Henry, for example, his parents are quite entrepreneurial. So when you ask the questions, Joe, on how do you teach kids that, he saw by example. So start bringing the kids into communities like this so they can see better examples. Bring them into multicultural events. There should be more kids in this audience right now. That's how we start. I followed Oprah. Okay, that was like only on for an hour in Papua New Guinea for 30 minutes. Like, we didn't even know who she was, but she was a black woman on TV. I was like, oh, hey, So you got to really think about the examples that you get to see, and if you see someone that looks like you, it makes such a difference. And then if you can actually get a network into that, that's how you start getting a bit more confident. And we're going to hear more about that tonight. So Ben, firstly, Ben Stokes grew up on a farm on the northwest coast of Tasmania, so also a skippy, after being adopted from an orphanage in Sri Lanka by a loving Tasmanian family. He is the founding partner of Chasing Rainbows, a pre-seed investment fund which invests in the LGBTQI+ community, founded companies to level the playing field to ensure greater access to capital for underrepresented founders. An emerging fund manager with both startup and corporate experience, Ben has been driving been a driving force in creating opportunities for the LGBTQ plus founders to get early funding. Ben sits on a number of NFP boards, so not-for-profit boards, including co-chairing Startouts Investor Board. He also mentors through a number of organizations, assisting founders to navigate the road to entrepreneurial success. Prior to founding Chasing Rainbows, Ben previously founded Social Table, a social platform used on every continent. Using his own experience as an LGBTQ plus founder of Color, he is an active angel investor in companies led by underrepresented founders and has fostered a number through to their exit or next investment phase. But there's so much more. So can you tell us a bit about your origin story?
Don't know tech that well because I can't chat on microphones. Awesome. Hi, hi everyone, I'm Ben. My origin story, as mentioned by Pauline, and thank you for that introduction, it's very different than most. To go a little bit deeper into, what I know about myself, I was abandoned in a hospital as a baby. I don't actually know my birthday or who my parents were or anything like that. So getting to that point of trying to understand a lot about identity, and particularly as I was growing up and trying to learn that, Brisbane is a lot more multicultural than Northwest Tasmania, just let me say that. But, it was a really great place to grow up because I grew up with this experience of having great parents, obviously, who are amazing, and at the same time gave me every opportunity to be successful because they set me up in a world where I could be educated and learn and do all of those things, which took me all the way around the world and back again, I suppose you could say. So, in terms of that element of identity, I think I really want to point on that, I guess, because as an entrepreneur, that was one of my challenges, was trying to understand where I fit in, because I didn't meet a lot of the diversity criteria that a lot of funds or investors were looking for, because I didn't classify myself as black, don't really classify myself as brown either, and because I have white parents. So it's kind of like thinking about, well, who am I and what does that mean? And I really struggled with that. And so it took me a little bit of time to sort of work through that. And I got to the point where I kept on getting rejected because I wasn't meeting those diversity criteria. And I sat back and went, well, what am I? Or who am I? And I was like, oh, I'm a gay guy. Okay, so I literally Googled gay accelerators. And I found Startup, which is the one that I got into. So I then literally I applied and got into that accelerator and then moved myself to the US. And that's kind of really took me on my journey. I started Social Table here in Australia. So the idea was that it was a social dining platform where you could book and pay for a single seat at a group table at a restaurant. So think dining with strangers and then hopefully living with friends at the end. And so, obviously, and I'll go into this a little bit later, but, it was one of those things that sort of really, I did it because I needed it myself. I'd been living overseas. I moved home while I was overseas, and my friends got married and started having kids. I didn't have anyone to go out with on a Friday night and get drunk with. And so I was like, well, how do I make friends as an adult? So I literally didn't know how to do that. So I kind of created something that allowed that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I've got more to say later.
Thank you. So Alison Wong is the founder of Home Cooked Love, account director at Excite Media, volunteer business mentor, who you can talk to after this during the networking for the Queensland Government Mentoring for Growth program. Ali Wong joined the Mentoring for Growth program as a mentor in September 2021. Ali, I really need to stick to one name. Ali has worked for the last 20 years in integrated marketing communications and entrepreneurship and thrives on taking on new challenges with passion and drive for creativity and new ways of thinking and doing to produce amazing results for her clients. She's an entrepreneur and has founded a successful boutique digital marketing agency in Sydney and e-commerce business to fuel her passion for food and artisan tableware. Most recently, she co-founded Jumpstart Collective with her husband to bring together Australia's top industry experts to help startups and SMBs, small, medium businesses grow and scale. Follow the story, please, Ali.
Emma, is this personal? Thanks. Oh, good person. Thanks, Pauline, for the introduction. So my origin story, I'm Singaporean by birth. I wasn't born in Australia. I wasn't educated here. I moved in 2004 to Sydney, Australia. Got a transfer from a multinational marketing agency I was working with at the time.
migrated to Australia, knew nothing about the country, came over, and here I am today. So I've worked with several large brands during my career and some of those big corporates. But during that experience, I actually had faced a lot of discrimination. Basically, being Asian and female, I was told in several board meetings by bosses that I wasn't speaking up enough. And I was put back on probation and made redundant twice in separate jobs. But that put fuel under my bum, so to speak. So my husband and I started our own digital agency very successfully and had clients such as ING Direct Office and actually worked with Queensland as well at the time. And we built that business very successfully for 7 years, sold it and moved to Brisbane. And that was when I started up my e-commerce business called Cook Love. It's basically because you can take, I'm not living in Singapore, but you can't ever take a Singaporean out of me because I love eating and I love anything that's artisan and handmade. And I've always loved hanging out in meat markets. And I really wanted to start an online platform to enable these ceramic artists and artisans to have another platform to sell their products rather than slogging away at weekend markets and not being able to reach many people at all. So I founded that platform together with my 20 plus years in marketing to help enable these artists to get their products out there and basically give them another platform to sell theirs. I'll share more. Thank you. Damana Madden. So Damana is a computer scientist and mathematician who has spent a quarter of a century as a software engineer building systems across diverse domains. After 6 years building and leading high-performing software teams at Amazon in Seattle, USA, Damana has returned to her native Australia to go back to her startup and consulting roots. Writing code is her happy place, and this is a journey that will see her contribute to the green energy space. Damana's experience in greenfield enterprise software and her hardware plus software days in biometrics, including facial recognition, voice authentication, electronic verification, and vision tracking systems, will influence the vision and build of future tech in Australia. Damana created Girl Geek dinners in Australia and in the mid-90s and in the mid-noughties. What is that? 2000s. Catching up. And is a voice and role model for all generations of women in STEM, and I can absolutely attest to that. Let us know what your origin story is.
Thank you. So I am, hi Brisbane, hi everyone online, I'm Damana Madden. I am half Papua New Guinean, half Australian, and I never thought I would start a panel that was dominated by half Papua New Guinean, half Australian.
Not by design at all.
Yeah, white, I should say. Yeah, you go us. Like you said, I'm a computer scientist, mathematician. I was born in Papua New Guinea and to two parents who are teachers. So if you've ever had immigrant parents, you know about the whole you will go through school and you will do primary school and high school and university and then you get your life. Mine were also teachers, which meant that, you know, that was even more intense. But my biggest challenge was that I'm neurodivergent. So I think if they could call it being on the spectrum, there was no word for it then in the mid-70s. But I couldn't tie my own shoelaces until I was 12. And you guys are probably too young to remember Velcro shoes. They changed my life. I no longer had to find my little sister to tie my shoelaces. I'm very good with numbers, and I get words mixed up. Like I couldn't say the word shoulder. I even have problems now. I'd want to say soldier, so I learned to sing that song, heads, knees and toes, because I just wouldn't say that word. So I had all these challenges with people. I didn't understand them. I didn't quite get it. My siblings were so social. So that was a hard thing for me because I got school, I got maths, I got science. And that was really easy. The hard bit was people, which is hilarious now because I build high-performance software teams and happy engineers, and that's what I'm known for. So you can get over those barriers. But I've worked all over the place. I worked for Microsoft, Amazon, in big tech. I had a successful startup. I had a really unsuccessful startup. I like to cover all my bases. And I've done everything. I've worked in every domain. So 25 years as a software engineer. I started when I was 2, just in case anyone asks. But yeah, So I guess that's me, and I'll talk more later.
Thank you. Juan Sebastian Ossa has two passions, the water resources and education sectors. In Australia, he has worked in academia, consulting and startups, finding solutions to challenging problems related to water scarcity and water surplus, and promote sustainable use of water resources. Juan is now working for FloodMap, a River City Labs alumni, a Brisbane-based startup developing innovative tools to monitor floods in real time and to undertake flood forecasting and postcasting. Juan is also the co-founder and director of Red Incol, a not-for-profit in Colombia that connects public schools with edtech such as online learning platforms and coding robotics. Through its online platform, Red Incol has helped more than 10,000 school students preparing for their final year school exam. The objective is to increase the employability of students. That's amazing. Juan, what's your origin story?
Thanks very much, Pauline. Thanks very much, everyone. So, my name is Juan. I'm originally from Colombia, South America. I came here to Australia approximately 7 years ago. I started my career back home. I'm a civil engineer by background, but as soon as I finished that, I started working with water. It's something that I'm always very interested about, very passionate about, how we can find solutions for a diverse range of water problems. Spent most of my first years after graduating in academia and research. Came here to Australia to do a research degree. And after that, I started working in consulting. Lots of things related to water again, which is very, very interesting, that subject. Flood modeling, hydrology, hydraulics, anything that you can imagine related to water. And then I always had that interest of doing something different, do things in a different way. And that's why I was very interested in FloodMap, which, as Pauline says, is we're scaling some solutions to monitor floods in real time and to forecast flows. This is a very interesting product that, and the vision at the end is building something that really reduces the negative impacts of floods, really reduce the economic damages, and that really reduces the number of people that die every year all around the world because of flooding. But parallel to that, I'm always connected. I was always very connected with my country. So I was connected with Colombia, and with a couple of friends once, like 4 or 5 years ago, we were all living abroad, but we were all very interested in our country. And we say, well, I think the most critical issue that we have is education, and not private education, because you can find very, very fancy schools in any country, private schools, but public education. So, in as much as some people complain about the Australian public education sector, the public education sector is like a very big thing here compared to many public education sectors in many of the countries where we come from. We said that we will never be able to progress as a country in Colombia unless we can provide high quality public education to every single person in the country. So we start bringing ideas. We learn a lot about things that we would see overseas, that we learn there. And our idea is say, okay, we want to take EdTech to schools back home. We want to help teachers because they are the essence of any system, to learn about these tools, to develop these tools, to bring them into their methodologies, like teaching methodologies. EdTech, and we really need to support the country. We are driving a change and importing EdTech, specifically in public schools, until a point where everyone in the country has access to education that allows them to develop their full potential. That's in a nutshell.
We're going to stay with you, Juan, to start off with, and then we'll come back around. So you were completing your PhD when you came here into Australia, correct? Yeah. So obviously, when you were actually doing that, you were not in a data science role, right? And you hadn't studied data science. In fact, you're completely different in the water engineering space. What did you do, and what was, I guess, some of the steps that you took to actually get into data science?
So I think I'll start one day when I was doing my bachelor. Someone told me I was doing like 10 spreadsheets, a lot of data in different spreadsheets. Said, "Oh, you should use MATLAB, and you could do that way faster, and you can do that." So I started being very curious about it. Was just knew a little bit about MATLAB at some point. Then I started with R. Then I started seeing all the potential about using these tools and analyzing data. for any type of field, no matter if you're a physician or if you're a teacher or if you are an engineer, if you're an economist. There is a lot of things that you can get out of these tools, and you can get out of that science. So I started like just in my spare time trying to develop like these skills, just doing online courses, training by myself, and it's not that hard, honestly. There are so many online resources that you can use to learn anything that you want to learn. It's just a matter of really willing to do it. So willingness, we heard a lot of willingness just before this interview. First of all, like willing to do it and taking a step to do it. So yeah, I started doing online courses, use several platforms, and start developing these skills. And one day I said, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I've developed some decent skills in data science, but also I found a very good opportunity in a company that valued like my previous experience as an engineer and those skills that I was developing. But I would say, yeah, the key thing is willingness. It's things like if you want to do it, just start doing it today, and you will get whatever you want to do and whatever you want to go.
You make it sound so simple. How much effort, blood, sweat, and tears goes into that?
I think there's always a little bit of effort. And I don't know, it happens that sometimes your friends, I don't know, go early, maybe just go have some food, have some beers, just watch some Netflix, and maybe you stay in your office a bit more while working that thing that you're working on, while you do that online course that you want to finish, that you speak with that person that you want to work as a mentor for him or her to teach you many things, or just to work on that project that you really want to develop, while all your friends, some of your friends just go home, go to rest, go do some sports, go and have a beer, go have some food. So it really takes a little bit of effort, but a little bit of determination is very important. It's very, very useful. So if you have a vision and you know where you want to go or what you want to achieve, I think that's what really keeps you like focused and like really helps you like go through all these obstacles going through these type of careers or just doing a bit more compared to what you could do if you just go home and watch Netflix on beer.
Good answer. So obviously you came from Colombia and you didn't actually know the industry here. You're also now working as a data scientist and also in the water space given its flood map. So you're leveraging your two superpowers and built. But you didn't know anyone here when you first landed, right? What did it take to actually build your network? What were some of the things that you did and access to actually help start to kick off your career, which is now in flood map?
I think that's a very good question, because when you first arrive to this country and you don't know anyone, maybe a cousin, maybe an uncle, maybe an aunt, or maybe someone that your mom say, oh, I know that person, just write to her, and you are going to Brisbane, she's in Perth, but it may not be that far away, isn't it? Just call her to see what you can get. It's about coming to these type of events, coming to these events where you can meet local people that can help you build connections. So as Wayne was saying before, it's about like going to events, connecting with people, networking with people, meeting people, having chats, and also not only trying to get out of the community, but also helping the community. Sometimes you go to events and you say, there is, I don't know, like for all my projects, I don't know if there's anything for me here, but I know that one or two friends, they're working on something and I met a very interesting person, and you just speak to that person, not because of your friends, and you just try to provide to the community. So it's as much as you try to get out of it, so you have to put back to the community. But it's about coming to these events and speaking to people and not being afraid. And at the beginning you're afraid, or at the beginning you're a bit scared, but just a shot. Just try to do it and network with people, connect with people, and start building a very good network of contacts that at some point that will help you in the future. Not only to you, but those around you. You will also benefit from that. This game is about giving as much as you take from it.
Thank you. I'll get you to pass it on to Damana. So Damana, for everyone else's background, I don't know how many people are in tech in here or want to get into tech? You can just raise your hand. Okay, so quite a few of you. Okay, good. This is relevant. 2015, it was reported globally that women with computer science degrees was about 18%. This number has been declining year on year, as many women are trending to drop out. You're a woman of colour. McKinsey estimates that there's only 4% globally in computer science degrees, and that was as at 2018. So the measurement data is not even up to date. You're in a small pool of women globally who pursued a deeply technical career in IT. Have you ever felt during early parts of your career, and until way earlier, the isolation of being the only woman of color in the room? And if so, can you share what kept you going? What did you do about that?
Hi. Yeah, I'm a unicorn. There's not many of us with that 20 plus, 25 plus experience in Australia. I think we all know each other actually, and I'm not even joking. I'm going to drinks on Sunday with a lot of them. So yeah, you were asking if there were challenges and how I got through it. There's a word that I love and I hate, and it's resilience. I hate that I have to be resilient, but it's the thing that got me through it. My other favorite word is delusion. So I have a tendency not to listen to everybody else's opinion because I've been told a lot of the time that I shouldn't be here. This is the wrong career for me. That's not what people do. You know, I'm an extroverted black female software engineer. Like, if it's 4%, I'm really impressed. I don't know where the rest are hiding. But it's the fact that when I hear no, I think I've just asked the wrong person, and I go and find somebody else to ask. So that also comes from being able to deal with rejection. Rejection is funny because it's one of my triggers, but it's also one of my strengths. So I feel awful when it happens, but I pick myself back up and think, I just asked the wrong person. So when people say no to me, it says more about them than it says about me, because I've got a lot of proof that I can do it. To this day, as a very proven technologist, I still get people telling me what I can and can't do. So yeah, it's a kind of resilience that came through my belief in myself and the fact that I really believe I can do anything. And I haven't been proven wrong yet. I haven't tried to fly, but I haven't been proven wrong yet. So yeah, that's, I guess, my answer.
And boy, aren't you playing. So you've overcome the odds, obviously, in IT, and I can attest to that because I've worked in IT for a while, and it's not a happy place a lot of the time, especially in big tech. So I've also worked in big tech. I can remember a lot of the scars on my back was from big tech. But if we were to go back to your career starting out in Microsoft, can you give us some ideas of actually from uni, how did you actually start your job or your career in IT? What were some of the things that you tangibly did?
I went to university in Darwin. People don't even know there's a university up there. They've changed the name a few times, so I don't even know what it's called now. But I left the small town I was in. I knew there was something more, and I was going to keep going until I found it. And so I kept moving around. I didn't stay still. Everyone kept telling me you have to stay in jobs for 5 years and for 10 years, and that shows that you're committed. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is longer than my attention span. And so I kept doing contracts, which I found were really interesting because I could move around and do new things. And I'd extend. I'd do a 1 year contract, and I'd extend 1 year, and I'd do 2, and then I'm like, yep, something new. And so I kept moving. And that lateral movement, it actually moved my income up, but it also exposed me to a lot of things and to a lot of people. And I just kept doing that. So I tell everyone I'm an opportunist. And my mother always encouraged that. She said, don't let the world tell you you're not allowed to be there and believe them and believe your disadvantages. Instead, if you get an opportunity, take it and feel no guilt, right? As long as you're not hurting people and you're doing the right thing, feel no guilt for the opportunity that you're given. So every time I saw an opportunity, I jumped on it. And if other people believed I could do it, I figured I could. And I did. Like, it was amazing. Most of the time, I didn't believe in me as much as other people did. So it was like taking that opportunity and applying myself.
So, Ali, in our previous conversations, you've referenced yourself as an Asian woman, and you did mention to the audience that does not speak up and not good enough or not seen. However, you are the hardest worker in the room, and for the employers in the room who have team members, and some of you may be who feel like this, if you could rewind the clock and those organizations could see you and approach you differently, what would that actually look like? panel members, stop touching the button. Better? It's gone off again. It's on. Sorry. Yeah, so I guess as employers and having been an employer myself in my previous business, I have a feeling that a lot of employers focus a lot on weaknesses, but they fail to see your strengths. So if I were to reverse my time at my previous employers, I really wish that they saw the strengths in me rather than have focused on my weaknesses. Because as employers, we're not there to fix our teams. We're there to enable, support, and inspire and empower them. We're not there to nitpick on what they're not good at. We're there to embrace what they're really good at. Give them the opportunity to really show that strength. You know, we're all here for a purpose. We're all here with our innate capabilities. And as employers, it's our responsibility to bring that out in each and every single one of our people. And I really wish that if I were to wind back the clock, I would have gone up to my boss and said, well, I don't speak up in meetings for a reason. It's because when I speak up, I give value. And when I feel that I don't have enough value to give, I'm not going to open my mouth. Because my mom and my dad have always told me, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard this phrase, and keep and say promotion. And there are rewards for them keep and say those meetings. That was amazing. You are a mum. You've worked in corporate for some of the largest agencies in the world, and you're co-founding, obviously, some of your businesses. Have you had any fears of branching out, especially leaving corporate, starting your own business? And if so, what were the things that you did to overcome it? Yeah, like if I were to say that I had no fear, that would be a big fat lie. Obviously, with any change in careers, whether you're moving from a corporate job to a corporate job, or if you're leaving your corporate job to go into founding your first business, it's always going to be fear. But because I have 2 children, they became my purpose. Because I was thinking to myself, when is there ever a good time to start your business? It's like a breakup. There's never a good time, right? So with businesses too, there's never a good time to start a business. When you have, an intuition to start something, when you have an idea that's so empowering, so strong that it cripples you and go, I have to do something about this, fear just becomes secondary, it just subsides. And really, to be honest, what was there to lose? There was absolutely nothing to lose, right? Like, if all else failed, I could just go back to my corporate job and do that. I could start another business. But at the end of the day, if I never tried, I would never know what successes lay beyond that fear. So with everything, to me, I've learned to use fear as my best friend. Because without fear, you're not going to be pushed to really live outside your comfort zone. So, in all my career dealing with big corporate clients, having managers that didn't see the light, to starting multiple businesses, I have learned very quickly to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. With everything in life, we've got to really ask ourselves, what kind of life do you want to create? You can't give your power up to a boss who tells you to speak up more in meetings or to work on this project even though you really don't want to work on it. Starting a business is your opportunity to show the world what potential is for. And I've always believed in myself and each and every single one of you in this room and online that we all have infinite potential, right? We're all here to contribute something back to this world. And you're holding yourself back because of fear, you're not doing yourself any justice, and you're not here to serve the purpose that you're meant to serve. And for me personally, I wanted to show my 2 girls who are half Dutch and half Asian, women of color, one day, if mom can be successful in business, they can be too. And I really want to carve that journey for them and generations of children to come, regardless of where their heritage is from. And that really helped me overcome all of the fear. Well done. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll get you to pass it on to Ben. Okay, so firstly, I just want to acknowledge that your origin story is unique, and you have overcome And I'm so inspired by your personal story, and I continue to be inspired by the work you do for a broader community beyond yourself. And thank you. So, although obviously you had some, and you did describe this in the beginning, where you had some moments where you struggled with identity and where you fit in the world, and then you found a community, and you obviously found a pathway to get your companies off the ground. But what have you recognized in looking back at your life are some of the key traits that helped you on that journey?
Yeah, I think that, thank you for acknowledging the story before, but like one of the biggest things for me was trying to understand like a lot about what happened to me and why these things happened to me as well. And I was very fortunate. A couple of years ago, I got to share what drives my purpose at the UN General Assembly, where I got to present to the 200 top CEOs around the world. And I spoke about the thing that I learned from my birth mother, and that was that single acts of kindness matter. Just, you never know what that one single act of kindness could do. And I say that because the single act of kindness that my birth mother gave me, or did to me, was that she left me somewhere safe that I could be found. And when I think about the power of that, because what she's done essentially is put me in a position where somebody could find me, somebody could look after me, somebody could take me to the orphanage where I was for the first 1.5 years of my life, to then be adopted by amazing parents and have all these opportunities. And because of her doing that one thing, now, I got the opportunity a couple of years ago to go back to the orphanage I was from, and I got to rebuild it because, just give one part of it that I really focused on, because when I was there, on my very first trip to Sri Lanka, where I went and sort of like did my heritage thing, there were 2 10-day-old babies that arrived at the orphanage who didn't have parents that needed to be handed to the orphanage, and they had a room that was about 3 meters by 3 meters that had 6 cribs in it, and they only had room for 1. And 30 years ago, I was that kid, right? And so, I got to go back and help rebuild this so that now there's 18 cribs instead of 6, because I never want that to ever happen to anyone else. So, going back to those traits and things, like you think about, kindness as being one of them. The other ones, I think, is determination and grit and resilience. And, the word that some people on the panel hate, right? That it matters because you think about those things and you put those things into you, and you learn the lessons from parents being sold of the earth like mine. Hard work pays off, and it does. So yeah, those are a couple of things, I suppose.
Brilliant, thank you. As a founder of Social Table and being in the US, and also the whole journey, especially during COVID, you've pivoted your business multiple times. Pivoted is a common, obviously, word used for change in the startup world. But can you actually go a bit more into the depth of the process before the change? Like what actually was happening, maybe also say personally, as well as tactically before the change, but rather than giving up?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit about Social Table before. It was the social dining platform where you book and pay for a single seat at a group table at a restaurant as a way of meeting people. And, I started here in Australia, I took it to the US and then Europe. Then, when the pandemic hit, as you can all imagine, pretty much overnight, every restaurant in the entire world shut down. And so no one was going out to dinner anymore. And it was pretty rough, I'll be honest. If you think about setbacks, that was a pretty big one because I couldn't even try something else at the time. There was nothing to do. And so and also at that time I'd been living in the States too. And so literally overnight, everything I'd been working towards for the last 5 years of my life, literally my job, my career, my friends, my living situation, everything changed because I literally caught the last flight back from San Francisco back to Australia. And then I got stuck here for 2.5 years. So, I couldn't do anything. So it was a really interesting time, I guess. And so it kind of took me a moment to go back and think, okay, well, what is it that my company at the time was really good at? And it wasn't about the food. That was like a nice secondary piece. I definitely like to eat though. But it was actually about the fact that we got to actually help people meet each other and meet other people that were like them that they'd never met before. And so I took away and sort of went back and thought about some of those really key aspects. And what we did next is, I actually took everything online. So we obviously use Zoom because everyone uses Zoom these days. But what we did is we we ended up being able to pivot it to sending wine, beer, spirits, and tea directly to people's houses, no matter where they were in the world, and then had them jump on a Zoom call, and then actually you had a sommelier jump on as well. So the sommelier gave this education piece for 30 minutes, where people then, obviously had 2 or 3 glasses in 30 minutes. You're in a pretty happy place to go and meet people as well. But it definitely helped. Sorry for those of you who don't drink in the room. I'm sorry. I'm definitely not an alcoholic either. But then what we did then, we then used an algorithm to actually break people out to breakout rooms and actually with people that they would actually get along with. I pivoted one more time again after that, and that was actually to focus on businesses, because during the pandemic, obviously, businesses had lost the element of company culture, and in particular, when organizations were bringing on new employees during the pandemic, those employees didn't have any opportunity or chance to even socialize with their colleagues, and they were thrown into meetings or Zoom meetings with them trying to problem solve or trying to work without actually even knowing each other. And so I sort of essentially brought back Friday afternoon drinks as a way for companies to get social again, which I was able to then exit the company late last year to a conglomerate in Dubai. So we really liked our algorithm. So yeah.
I do have one more question for you because I think it's relevant to a lot of people. Definitely was relevant to me. When a lot of people, especially people from diverse backgrounds who have got the social network, or I remember when someone told me, if you want to raise capital, just ask your friends and family. I'm like, have you seen my friends and family? They're asking me for money. And so it's really difficult. And then building technology and coming up with businesses, some people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go get a grant, or I'm going to have to go ask someone for money, or how am I going to path? And they think only way is to actually get money before you even start. But you had a different path. So can you share us what that was without the capital?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I bootstrapped it. Absolutely. So I just want to preface, the part of the reason why my fund is set up the way it is for that very fact that, for a lot of people, they don't have friends and family or a network. And particularly what I found in the LGBTQ+ community is sadly when a lot of them do, or a lot of people within that community come out, they lose their friends and family due to bigotry. And so when the very first round of fundraising is literally called Friends and Family, you don't have anywhere you're supposed to go. I've set up our fund, Chasing Rainbows, to essentially be that chosen family for these founders, so they do know that there's somewhere they can go and get this capital as well. But to your question, I started Social Table with no capital really, except what I had in the bank account, and that wasn't much, trust me. And so I was thinking about, well, how can I sort of make this work? And so I started testing models, and that's what we do as entrepreneurs. You test and you test and you test until you get it right. And so I remember I was like, okay, how do I connect people? Okay, people like to connect over food. How do I make this simple? And how do I get them everybody to pay up front? Because essentially what I need to do is then I need to be able to know who's going to come. I need to understand that they are actually going to show up. And then on top of that, I need to understand dietary requirements and things like that. So my very first ticketing system that I used was a Zephyr, which obviously exists. And so I used that to test my model, to understand that people were willing to pay up front for dinner, that they didn't know anyone who else was going to be there. And then, they would give me all the dietary requirements and things like that. And I would send all of that to the restaurant. And I'd try and take away all of those things that were inhibitive, I suppose, to, any just going and showing up to dinner. And so the idea was that then the other thing that we did was we didn't show any photographs of anyone else who was going either. And instead, we just sent a random fact. So instead, you got a list of names who were going to attend the dinner and a list of random facts, but you didn't know who those random facts belonged to. And so the idea then was that you would literally go to this dinner with a bunch of strangers and you didn't know who was who and you didn't know what their story was or what their random fact was. And so your goal then was to actually ask people questions. When you ask people questions, they tell their story. And so we really focused on the things we're good at. So going back to, again, so then I got revenue on day one. And that was the thing that I really want to point out tonight is that focus on revenue. Because the sooner you focus on revenue, the sooner your business is sustainable. So it doesn't matter if the world shuts down overnight, like it did pretty much for me, because you had money coming in and you could actually test and play with that, you made a sustainable business. And that meant at the time, I wasn't desperate for capital, which meant I could keep building it sustainably. And then when I was ready for some capital to really expand, I could actually have a conversation where I wasn't desperate. because I wasn't running out of money, but instead could have a strategic conversation to show that I understood my CAC or customer acquisition cost, what my lifetime value was, and it was a plug and play method as well. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. Now we have run over time, and you want to do networking, right? Do you want questions, Q&A? Has anyone got anything burning you want to ask in front, noting that if you're going to ask a question, consider the audience around you, or do we go straight to networking so you can pounce on these people? Networking? Yeah, community vote? Or no, everyone's like, what is she talking about? Yeah? Okay. I'll make the executive decision. I just want to say thank you so much to our panel. Thank you for being so vulnerable to share your stories, because that takes courage, and this is an example of giving back. Thank you to Henry also for speaking earlier. A big round of applause for our panel. You say that. So a couple of pieces. So we have some amazing mentors who are going to share their time with you during networking, and I would love them all just to put their hand up as I say. Ali, obviously. Please go and talk to Ali. You have an understanding of her background and her superpowers, so please launch on her. Caesar, are you in the room? Caesar Hasselman? Nope. Rikesh, I know you're in the room. Okay, everyone, pounce on Rikesh. Better put your hand back up again. Everyone see Rikesh? Yep, pounce on Rikesh. Actually, Rikesh started his business, which is in power, right? Electricity. Right here in this room on a hackathon, right? So in 2018? Yeah. 2018, attended a hackathon, and now you have a thriving business, right? And you're volunteering your time for mentoring. Okay, go talk to Rikesh. Irina, lovely Irina. I don't know too much about you, Irina, so I would love for you to tell me a little bit about yourself, if that's okay. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So if you haven't heard what that is, marketing, social media, PR, communication, no question is too small or too big. Go and tackle Irina after this. Pushpa, are you in the room? No? No? Okay. So here's some of our mentors, but please go and get to know each other. Remember to ask first and ask for something. You just don't know what you're going to get. I ask for a lot. Every time my team actually submits an Officeworks order, I ask them for $1 million and they laugh at me. You never know what you're going to get, so just ask. Please get to know everyone. Please feel free to add me on LinkedIn. We're going to be doing a lot more work in people of color. Of course, I personally will be doing a lot of work in that space, but also multicultural events like this into the new year. So if you do want to get more involved, please connect with people on LinkedIn. For those who aren't on LinkedIn, join LinkedIn, because that's the way you've got to get into the community so that you can ask and receive and give back. And then, of course, make lots of friends and have some fun. Thank you to the wonderful Stephanie, who helped actually herd all the cats and get us all here. We appreciate you, and enjoy your evening. Thank you.